Hey bro, sorry I'm late. What the hell?
What's up?
This?
Oh, this is just the Lamon Gamon, everybody.
Wait, you bought this?
Oh, I mean, we've partnered up with a company called Apex for the Lamon Gamon, everybody.
So wait, they gave you a PC for free?
Well, you know, they want me to partnership with them because now you're gone. They're like, well, now's the time to partner up with Laymen Gaming.
So they give away free PCs when I leave the channel.
This is the beautiful TD500 in the white, everybody. Okay, the special edition Layman Gaming. Okay, Layman Gaming called the Lamon Gamon. Check it out, because Ralph doesn't get this.
Don't buy this,
do.
people. I can't believe. Where's my free PC? Damn it!
Definitely buy this.
Hello.
This is familiar territory.
Been a while since I've been on this.
What's going on
the Layman casting couch?
Reunion, alright?
Well, you know, when
We just need Oprah here for one of those reunion specials.
It is, yeah.
That's what we
Okay,
need.
it'd be like the Will Smith thing with, you know, like he's like, I'm sorry I hurt you, man. I didn't realize what I was doing. I was young.
We can actually jump in the couch like Tom Cruise does. We can do that.
Can do that. No, it's Cyberpunk 2077. It's the biggest game of the year, so the Laymen bring back
Last of Us Part 2.
the big guns.
The
They
big
bring
guns.
back the big guns for the review discussion.
Skill down is back.
Skill down is back.
Should we do the drop?
Sam, what are we?
Alright, sure.
Well, first of all, what are we doing here, Sam? Why have you dragged
I was
me
going to ask
here?
I was going to ask, what have you been doing lately? That's what I've been doing.
I can tell you I've not slept, okay? I'm
Ralph's very
exhausted.
tired.
I'm fucking tired.
He's had 2 hours of sleep.
Literally.
But
But
okay, yes.
the review is out.
Alright.
And so that means we can talk about Cyberpunk now. And I think, is that what we're here to do, Sam?
Let's do it. After the drop.
So, Cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk 2077.
Sensational.
So, I guess first thing. All right, this is your point before. We're doing a second take here,
Nice,
guys.
Sam.
We're doing a second take
Very
here.
smooth.
Now, the embargo.
The embargo.
We haven't seen an embargo like this before. Now, previous ones like Death Stranding, you weren't able to publish your review until you saw the credits.
Yep.
Which is in itself a bit weird, but sure, we played ball. Then there was The Last of Us Part 2, where you could only show a certain amount of footage and only talk about the game pretty much to a certain point because they didn't want to spoil Abby.
Yep.
Which in itself has its own problems because then you can't like talk about the game in its like what you thought of the actual finish of the game or whatever.
Sure.
And you can do that without spoilers, but this was even worse.
This was actually the most restrictive NDA that I've ever been subject to while reviewing video games. And it's disappointing because it was from CD Projekt Red, when you're like, well, we really kind of not expect... You don't expect CD Projekt Red to do that. You expect something different, right? So they basically said that you were not allowed to use any of your own footage. You could only use B-roll. The B-roll, by the way, wasn't even B-roll. It was trailer footage. B-roll is just playing the
like
game.
cinematic perfection.
It was like cinematic with like... it was bullshit footage. I was like, this is unusable. And they said no console codes. And I was like, really? Come on, man. So... I actually didn't put up a review on the embargo for that reason, because I'm like, it's not my job to roll out trailer footage for you in my review. Like, reviews are to show the game, not to do that. So I didn't do that, and I put my review up yesterday, which was when we were allowed to use actual footage, right? So I think that on a high level, I was disappointed with that review embargo.
Yes, I think when you are only able to release your review, your own footage, like literally 20 hours before the game comes out, that's in itself...
Yes.
we love CD Projekt, but that's a bit shady, dude.
It definitely is. And it really speaks to the fact that they didn't have confidence in the state that this game was going to ship in. And there's all the talk about the day one patch. No day one patch is as mighty as needs be to overcome all the issues that we saw in our playthrough.
And
it's not possible, okay?
We also had a 49 gig patch, but like 2 or 3 days before, which apparently fixed a lot of the bugs. I personally didn't experience that. Then I saw other people say that you had to restart your entire game and start a new playthrough.
I don't even believe that's true.
I mean, look, if Yong did that, because apparently Yong did that, then fair enough. That may have been a viable way to get some of these bugs. But like, most people that update a patch aren't going to just toss all their save away. You know, like normally you just go back to where you were and want to continue enjoying the game.
Sure.
But you know, when we're only able to show the footage that they want you to show, that was a huge red flag. When I was like,
it was.
I was thinking to myself, this is borderline, like, not anti-consumer, but like...
I mean, it is. Like, imagine if EA or Activision or Bethesda
jump all over
pulled this move.
Yeah, we jump all over it.
Everyone's pulling punches on this because of CD Projekt Red. And I'm like, no, that's not right that they did this, and then that's it. So we say as much, you know?
I think because they have such a great track record of having the best interests of the gaming community at heart in terms of content, pricing, you know, smart delivery with next generation. They're all in that regard doing a really good job. So,
but I also feel, and I do see the flip side, and that is that they've worked for like 8 years on a product, and the last year they got their ass handed to them by COVID. and they've got a day one patch, which is gonna fix. I know, but
every dev.
Let me finish. They've got their ass handed to by COVID. They've got a day one patch which is going to fix some things, and they want to show the game in its best possible light, right?
Yeah.
I get that, but they're not special in that regard. Every developer faces the same challenge in that regard, and every developer manages to still do the right thing when it comes to how the game is presented in the review cycle and to people. So I feel like that was a disappointment. I think that's all we can really say about that. But I will say it probably leads into the conversation about the technical state of this game as we played it.
Look,
not great.
Okay.
Not great.
When I first started, I was like, oh, that's a little bit of a cheeky bug here and there. And then by the end of it, it was every 45 minutes, I was like, I either have to restart this game or just grin and bear this audio bug or the floating guns or the elevator not working, so I have to walk in and out constantly, or the end boss just looking at me and I just, destroy him with my, shotgun or whatever.
I had a different bug on the end boss.
Did you?
No, I won't say what, but I also had a bug end boss. So.
Well, mine tried to jump off that, that little area at the top. Like he could anyway, he just started floating and looking at me. It was just so cooked. There was just so many moments that were atmospherically and immersively just breaking me out of this game.
Sure.
And that was its strength in terms of like just immersing you in the greatest world I think I've ever seen in video games. At least the most detailed and realized world. One of the most realized world I've ever seen.
I think it was in terms of its visual spectacle, like how it looks and feels to be in Night City.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous how good this city is. I can't believe humans made this place.
Yeah.
It really does feel just so massive and so colorful and so dense and interesting. It just feels so real. It's crazy, right? Well, real's not quite the right word because I think it looks real and feels real, but it's not actually real because I don't know if you've seen, but like the cars can't actually...
The cars are terrible.
The cars can't negotiate traffic. Like if you park in the middle of the road, the cars will just stop. The traffic will just stop and then just sit there. Like they won't do anything. They won't try and move around you and all that stuff.
One thing I was going to cover in my review, but then I decided not to because I was playing on my TV. Then I played on the actual computer and on keyboard and mouse and controller. I tried numerous different ways to see if I actually liked the driving. The driving in this game for me just didn't do it for me.
No.
That's majority of the time, not majority, but a lot of the time that you're going back and forth to missions and whatever, just even hanging out in Night City, you're going to be in the car. Yeah. So apart from shoot 'em ups or dialogue moments, it's going to be in the car. And for me, that was such a letdown. It was so slippery. A lot of the cars were sluggish. Anything over 40 kilometers an hour, you did not fully have control of that car. Like you did not.
I agree with that.
What's interesting is in the main campaign, there was no actual, missions that really made you drive around in some car chase. Any main mission had you in the side car.
I think there's
on rails.
There's only one car chase scene that I can remember.
The one that you saw in the cabs or something?
Actually, yeah, you're right. So that's one sub quest. And then one other side mission I can remember where there's like a car chase kind of thing, right? So
I honestly think it's the devs going, these cars don't have the chops for this. Like, we cannot put, the player through an intense, high-speed chase through Night City because they cannot control the car fully, and it'll just be a shit mission. And that's why I honestly think, in a game that's like, mirroring GTA in the way of like, it's a open world in a city, GTA does that stuff all the time. But with this, you just didn't see any of that.
Having said all these criticisms of Night City though, like it's just incredible. It's just such an amazing space that even though it's not as interactive as you might like and it's got some problems or whatever, it's just astounding.
It's class leading for me.
There's never been a better video game environment ever created, I don't think, than Night City. Just in terms of its spectacle, its look, its feel. Like it's just.
I wonder if it's because of the graphics, or is it just
I think
do you know what I mean? It's part of that, right? Like
all of that.
If you look at like I don't know, Skyrim or whatever, right? Like other massive worlds that make you feel completely immersed. Would this stand toe to toe if Skyrim had equal graphics where it is now in 2020? I don't know. You know what I mean by that?
I do. Look, I think there's an X factor that comes through that you just can't put your finger on with Night City. It's a combination of the sounds and the people and the fashion and the buildings and the neon and all that. It all just coalesces to become like, wow, I love this place. So even though I wasn't doing the most interesting things in Night City, it always felt interesting to be in Night City. I would say that.
Did you enjoy the campaign? Okay, so the side quest, as I said in my review, I did the main quest first, then I did like as much side quest stuff as possible in the side. A lot of people were like, who does that? I kind of just like to do that, I guess. It's kind of one of those things.
I do think though that's important, an important question. I agree with you. Like, I think it's perfectly fine to go either way and like go beeline playthrough and then go back and do it, or do it at the same time. But I actually feel like in this game, that's the wrong way to play.
I agree with that. After I had done so much of the side quest, I'm like, wow, this is where the meat of all the emotional like relationship building, understanding the characters, understanding like just like the real growth with those characters is actually in the side quest. I regret doing that.
Because the way it would work is you would meet like a character in the main quest or what have you, and then you don't necessarily have to go and see them again if you don't want to, but you'll get a phone call or a message from them unexpectedly, and they'll say, hey dude, I want to catch up, I got a job for you, and you're like, okay, you can go and do that if you like, or not, you know. And it's very organic, because then you'll do a job with them and they'll say, hey man, thanks very much, catch you later, and then you go off and do some other jobs, and maybe you play for another 3 hours and you don't hear from that character again, and then all of a sudden, hello, it's Judy, what's up? Yep, I'm got something else for you, come over and see me. And it really made my entire experience playing Cyberpunk feel like I was just hanging out in a city rather than playing a video game. That sounds super dumb. I'm not really explaining it correctly, but structurally...
It's the 2 hour sleep.
It's the 2 hour sleep. But structurally, like, you know, these open world games, they feel very rigid and like, I do this and then I do that and I know that's coming up and whatever else. But this just feels so unexpected. At all times, you never know who's going to send you a message or pick up the phone. You don't know what kind of mission they're going to offer you. Whether it's going to be just a cutscene mission where you just chat with each other or go and look at the sunset or whatever. Yeah. Or if you're planning some massive heist to steal some kind of government super weapon. Like, it honestly is that unexpected. Or just watch a movie together. Like, it's that unexpected, you know?
I found that for me to do the next mission when they would call me next, I'd literally just press menu and just bring the clock 24 hours and then they would call.
Yeah, but
Did you do that?
No, I didn't, because that's the thing. Like, some of them would say wait a day, and you could fast forward time. But I specifically didn't, because there were times when, you know, it would say like, you know, wait a day before you can hear from this person again, and you could like do that. But I would instead just go and do some other side quests.
Other missions and whatever.
Because I like I love the anticipation of waiting for that phone call. That's another thing I think. This is a game where you actually feel anticipation for things to happen, and you don't know when they're going to happen. And that's so rare in video games, I think. You always know what's going to happen in video games, right? But this one, you can just feel like, oh, I look forward to that. And you can just put that in the back of your mind, and that's nice, you know?
Yeah, and I feel like the main quest, like a lot of people are going to... There's a lot of hype around this game, right?
You don't say. You don't say.
I think with that hype, people want a pretty grand finish. Maybe that's just an assumption, but I was certainly expecting quite a grand finish to this, based on how grand I thought, you know, this game really is in so many aspects. I know there's multiple endings. I know that. I personally felt like the main ending of the main quest just kind of simmered off. It just didn't have like a gigantic finish that I really wanted. Maybe that's just objectively wrong to try and ask those questions, but like, do you know what I mean? Like,
I do, but I also disagree, because basically the side quests change your endings, okay? So if you don't do any side quests, you don't really have any choices at the end. You kind of just get shuttled through one ending. But if you
I did have those choices that you had.
All of them?
I believe I had some of the ones that you had, yes. So I did have choice.
Sure.
The one that I went down, personally, I just was quite surprised that it ended. I thought it was getting ready for like Act 3 or something, you know?
I don't agree with that personally. I do feel as though I had a range of choices, and certainly the one that I chose was very meaningful and impactful. And I know, talking to other people about their endings, the other ones I could have chosen, they sounded pretty cool too. So, I don't know, like, I didn't feel disappointed with the ending. It wasn't like, oh yeah, shit man, what an ending. But I think it did the job for me personally, overall.
One thing I've seen from other reviewers, people talking in the comment section like, oh, the idea that this game didn't ask big questions.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it asked gigantic questions like
totally
Blade Runner. And some people, like, you know, X, Y, and Z reviewers are saying that they really felt like it sunk its teeth into those questions. I did not feel at all that it was asking questions like, what is, you know, technology and society, you know, how does technology affect humanity in the future? What does it mean to be a robot? What does it mean to kind of meld yourself with robotics? And what does that mean?
Yeah.
What's the tipping point before you're not human anymore? Like Adam Smasher, for instance. Like, I would have loved to ask those questions, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's something I said in my review as well, which is that as a futurist text, I think Cyberpunk 2077 is pretty weak, actually. Like,
it didn't want to say anything, I don't think.
Yeah, as I said, it didn't need to, like, have all these long, sermons and theories and
monologues.
It didn't need to go crazy, but I think I would have liked it to do a little bit more in that regard, because obviously the source material does dig into these sorts of questions and is a lot more confronting and challenging than what this game ended up being. This is just kind of a cool, fun sci-fi adventure, rather than being like a thought-provoking futurist text.
I feel like they just wanted to give you as many moments as possible for cool moments, and as many moments as possible for Johnny Silverhand to say some badass stuff.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing.
Did you like Johnny Silverhand, by the way? Did you like Keanu?
I did. I know that you didn't,
but
I liked him. I knew that he had to fight against the good guy Keanu that we know in reality.
I think he failed.
I think he did well. I think he did, because I thought by the end of it, he enriched the story for me.
Definitely.
And I thought that I wouldn't want anyone else to play him now.
No, well, that's the thing. Like, that sort of thing. I think there are a dozen actors that could have played Johnny Silverhand.
Maybe
there's a lot of actors, but anyone that could channel bad, like angry, hateful energy, like, would be great. But Keanu is kind of constitutionally incapable of channeling bad, hateful energy.
Well, Fight Club's a perfect example that we chatted about before we did our review. That's probably like a really good way of, like, you hated Brad Pitt's character, but you loved him. See, I guess you're feeling like you didn't buy Keanu's.
Correct. I bought Brad Pitt as Tyler Durden, but I don't buy Keanu Reeves as Johnny Silverhand. That's the difference. So, but I did like the interactions. I think the way that Johnny Silverhand pops up in the story and narrates or challenges you, disagrees with you, judges you, points things out to you. That was a great highlight. I actually really enjoyed that. So, and as well, I think it's important to say that some of the side quests in this game are really fantastic and just
amazing.
Really just interesting and fun and like emotional, and you feel connected to these characters. They can be emotionally confronting as well, some of the events that go down. I don't think this is a strongly written game, as strongly written as The Witcher 3, for example, overall. But I do think it has some moments that really stand out, and that I think are just great moments.
I've only played about 20 hours of Witcher. I need to go back and actually finish it. But I was pretty engrossed in it. But I was
Call yourself a gamer? I only played 20 hours of The Witcher.
I was playing on Switch too.
540p, baby.
I gotta go back and play that. But so like I really can't comment fully on The Witcher, but I did thoroughly enjoy The Witcher. I don't know why I put it down. I think we were reviewing a game at a time, so I put it down, never went back. But for me, I still feel like this is class leading in a lot of ways. But this idea of, is this the game of the generation? Because a lot of people are like, well, this has to be right. The hype is so big, it must be, game of the generation. For me, it's just a really, really polished, after the bugs are gone, really polished AAA experience that is a must. It's a must-have. You got to experience this thing when the bugs are gone. But I don't think this defined the generation. I think like stuff like God of War, or even like, I don't know, in terms of like like massive AAA games that really pushed the industry, tried really daring things, or like Death Stranding, or
just triggered a lot of people.
I know, but like
including Death Stranding in the game of the generation discussion, you triggered a lot of people, Sam. Well, letting you know.
There's different metrics, right? But like, if we were to, and then people say Breath of the Wild because it completely tried to change its formula and it kind of succeeded, or whatever, right?
It's all about weapon fragility.
I love that. This, for me, just felt like it lent on a lot of things that are already tried and tested, and just really perfected them. The only thing that I would say this really stood out and led the charge with was the world building and the atmosphere and the immersion that it created.
I agree, actually. Yeah, I do agree. I think that this is a really great action game. And that's the other thing I said in my review as well. I think as an RPG, this is kind of weak. I think if you dig deep into most of the RPG systems, they don't really work well.
We should talk about the skill tree for a second.
Skill trees are not great.
Look, as I said in there are so many little aspects to jump in, and like it's just almost overwhelming. And I put a lot into my pistol, and like sure you're getting like +4 crit percentage or 10% health damage or what. Like there's little incremental things, but like they're not. It just felt so big. I didn't even know which avenue to confidently go down because I didn't feel like I had a strong enough concept or an idea of the entire skill tree because it was so big and just like, whoa, what the hell's going on here?
I don't agree with that. I feel like it was clear to know what to do. Like pistol handgun talents
I didn't.
make you better with handgun.
No, I know. That's
Do you
what
know
I mean.
But I don't think that it actually really meant anything. Like, yeah, you get 4% more crit or something. Like, okay, does that really change things up? You know, does it make my game more interesting? You know, and I think the weapons system overall, where you're just constantly picking up and tossing away weapons, is super boring. Like, I would much rather I had 6 or 7 weapons and I would apply mods to them that change their handling, change their rates of fire, the type of damage they deal, status effects, all that sort of stuff. And I could work with that rather than, oh, this shotgun has an extra 3 DPS. Better throw away my old one, pick up the new one, kill another bad guy, open your menu. Oh, look, this one has another 4 DPS. Pick that up, throw that one away, and just do that for 50 hours. You know, that kind of sucks.
I guess where I'm going with that was, with the actual skill tree, there were some areas that I never delved into. I just ended up being in 1 or 2 of them. Did you go in? Did you put in points in every single one?
No, I would say that there's a problem with the way that the XP curve is calibrated right now, where you've got so many talents and so much stuff going on.
That's what I mean.
But when you're playing the game, you don't get enough experience to actually put points into all of that.
To flesh it
right?
out.
So,
like God of War, by the end of it, or Spider-Man, you can kind of flesh it all out.
Yeah.
Right? By the end of it, they've calculated it to a point where you're able to fully experience all the movesets.
or at least, but not even like all of it, but just like at least
a decent
chunk of it.
Yeah.
Here, as I said, I've put more than 50 hours into this game now, and I've still not even completed half of one area. Like, even though I made handguns as well, right? I'm still only like halfway through the handgun XP curve, even though that's pretty much all I use my whole playthrough, 50 hours. And that's like, what do you want from me?
And I'm sure people are going to be like, well, then that's when you do the New Game Plus. But like, there isn't anything like that, you see. So like, this is a one snapshot experience where you don't go back again and again, like Dark Souls, for instance, which I've been playing a lot of. But you know, this is not like that.
This game is around 50 hours to finish all of the main content and all of the main side content. And I think it's probably another 15 hours on top of that to finish all of the superfluous side content. I think this in total is like a 70-hour game if you're a completionist. That's my take. And I think that this XP curve as it currently exists makes it look like the game is 150 hours when it's not. So,
do you feel like this game kind of reached the hype? Do you think it measured up?
I think, no, as I said in my review, I don't think so, because no game could really do that. The hype
was too big.
It was destructive in the end, right?
I think they fed into it at the beginning, in terms of Cyberpunk. Like, maybe because there was so little talked about, and then it became the keynote of Xboxes in 2019 or 2018. Like, it was like the header. Everyone knew that this was the biggest thing. In E3, it stole the show, and it only had like 5-minute runtime, but it was the entire E3.
Yeah.
In that regard, it was so gigantic, and of course that's a great marketing strategy for CD Projekt Red, but I think it maybe got away from them a bit. Like, it was so big, and people were expecting this to be the second coming of Jesus, you know? And then when it comes out, it cannot measure up.
No, but
it cannot measure
again,
up.
but I just think it's important to ignore that hype. And like, I would say that this game met high expectations. That's what I said in my review. I'm like, yeah, ignore the hype. No game could possibly meet that. But if you had high expectations for an excellent open world, actiony, choice-based RPG game, yes, this is it, man. Like, it's nowhere near perfect, of course. It's got lots of deep problems, but the things that it gets right, like, it really nails those things. To the point where, you know, as I said, I walked into it with high expectations. I walked out of it feeling as though the most important of those expectations was met, and I think that that's ultimately all you can really hope for. You know, I think it is a job well done from CD Projekt Red, and I also think they're going to do a lot of work on this game in the future. Like, this is the start, because they're going to have DLCs. They're going to have a multiplayer mode that launches much later. They're going to have there's an animated TV show coming up. There's a
Johnny Silverhand comic right now.
There's going to be everything now. This is the start of an entirely new. Like, The Witcher is massive, and it's going to be the same with this, right? So I expect this game will also receive significant rebuilding for some of these core components that we talked about. And I'm like, that's great, you know, that's cool. We can look forward to playing it again in the future when they've fixed all these problems.
Before we finish, when would you say people should play it? Now, or in a month or 2 months? What would you say? I would say...
Not 2 months. I think it's at least 3 months until the bugs get fixed.
You think so?
And then I actually think it's realistically 9 to 12 months until most of the core like systems are rebalanced and refined.
I don't know if they're going to do those
No,
changes.
they
You think so?
Absolutely. As I just said, this is not just a game where like, oh, we made it done. Like, this is an investment. This is CD Projekt Red's next major flagship franchise. They're going to make money from. And this game, like The Witcher, for example, had its best sales ever or something like last year,
Netflix,
right?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's in their interest to make sure every part of this game really shines, even though it comes out that these changes will happen much later on. You know
I think
what
the single player experience is quite rare for a lot of games to go back and change, like
I agree with
mechanic, like, you know, how things are balanced inside. I think we're going to see a lot of that maybe in the multiplayer aspect, because
the multiplayer is a completely separate game.
Exactly, it's a separate game. So balancing and tweaking that, because it's like a competitive online experience, that's probably where they're going to put a lot of their time and effort in terms of balancing and stuff. But in terms of, do I think this game is playable now? I do think, of course it is. If you're expecting a hell of a lot of bugs, but you just want to play it anyway, you still will have a good experience. But if you want to wait, for me, like personally, I think a month or two, not 3 or 4.
Definitely longer. It's definitely a month or two is not anywhere near enough to be able to fix everything that's wrong with this game. No way.
Well, I hope it is, but maybe you're right.
It's at least 3 to 6. I will tell you that. Like, can't say for a fact, but like, definitely in my experience, it's at least 3 to 6 months, because the scale of bugs is huge. I mean,
It's the biggest I've ever seen.
Even at this day one patch is out now, right? But there's still all these bugs. They're out there, man. It's a thing, right? So I would say if you can wait, I think it's good to, because the game ultimately is so good that it's a shame to have it spoiled by these bugs, you know?
Yes. Now, tomorrow, or actually no, in like 6 to 7 hours after we release this, we are going live to watch the Game Awards. We had said that a few months ago that we are going to be doing that live together. So we are doing it.
So we can all watch The Last of Us 2 win Game of the Year together.
I think it's going to happen.
I think it's definitely going to happen.
There's a conversation that we'll have tomorrow. I think the fallout, if they do win, because there'll be some serious fallout in terms of people like legitimately
slash R Last of Us 2 on Suicide Watch, you know.
No, like
slash R Gaming Circle Jerk.
There's going to be a lot.
Just like rubbing their hands together, baby.
There's going to be a lot.
It's going to be interesting. Anyway, that's the video.
Laymen out.
Laymen out.
Laymen out.